So welcome to my kitchen. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome to Cooking Today. I'm glad you're here. We are making soup today. I love soup. I think it's so comforting and delicious. And y'all, what's so good about this black bean soup is that it is so shareable. I love to share food. Call a neighbor real quick if we've just got enough for, 2 extra bowls, or divide this up and take it to folks. I'm actually going to take one of these to a friend who had a baby tonight. And so, black bean soup. We're going to start it with some smoky bacon that I've already got crisping in my big Dutch oven. We're going to use that reserved bacon fat just to flavor the base of this soup. We're going to make sweet jalapeno cornbread. It's very cakey and tall, has a lot of leavener in it, so it really almost tastes like your granny's dry cornbread and yellow cake. You know what I mean? Really good, tall and lofty and sweet and crumbly and so good. So we've got lots going on today. Look at all. I love it when there's a lot going on. It's really fun. What we've started already is I have about 6 pieces of bacon that I went ahead and just cut up into little bites. They call that lardons if you're fancy. And I have that sauteing in my big Dutch oven. Now this soup feeds probably 6 to 8. Kind of depends on what all you've got going with it. But we easily served 6 to 8 last night, made 6 to 8 bowls of it. Yeah, it kind of depends on how you spread it. And so I have it in my big 5.5 quart Dutch oven. So you don't want to do it in anything smaller than that because you may end up with a little bit, be short on your cooking space, your pot space. So I've got my bacon going over kind of medium-low heat. We do want to kind of let that fat render out. We want some good grease left in the bottom of that pot. Then I have my 8 or 10 inch maybe, I'm not quite sure, maybe a 10 inch cast iron skillet. And I have about 1/3 cup of Crisco shortening, good old-fashioned Crisco that I have just kind of clumped right down there in the bottom. And I have a preheated oven at 400. So what we want to do to get a good crust on the bottom of our cornbread is preheat our cast iron skillet. So when we pour our batter in, it's going to sizzle, and you immediately get that good dark crust that's on the bottom. But we want our shortening to melt in our skillet. So I'm going to stick this down inside our oven. And so we've just put that in there, and we're going to let that get nice and hot, and we're going to let that Crisco melt all the way down. And what that's going to do is we're going to kind of give it a little careful, run around, and it's going to actually grease our skillet for us on the bottom. Isn't that nice? Then we're going to pour it into our batter. Let me check I got to kind of keep my eyes on my bacon and keep giving that a stir. Looks good. That's going to take a little bit, and then we'll just remove it. So let's go ahead and make our cornbread. And what I've got here is yellow cornbread. Now I know that in the South, most of the time we use white cornmeal, but I really like the color of the yellow. I think it's so pretty, so I used yellow. You can totally use white if you would rather. So I have a little bit of about 1 cup of cornmeal, about 1 cup of flour. I'm adding in 1/4 cup of sugar. Now that's pretty sweet. I know some recipes where people do even more than that. So it's kind of up to you. You may have to make it a couple of times to figure out how sweet you really like your cornbread. We do about 1/4 cup. Now I'll tell you, Sam Hannon loves his cornbread sweet. Sweeter than this. So I made this a couple nights ago, and I said, oh, that cornbread was so good and sweet. And he said, was it sweet? I mean, he really almost wants it to be like a cake. So I would say start it right there with 1/4 cup. I think it's just fine, but you can do whatever. Okay, and then we want to add let's do our salt. We're going to do about 1 teaspoon of salt. I do about a scant teaspoon of salt, not a full teaspoon, because I don't want it to be too salty. And then let's do our leaveners. We'll do our baking powder first. And we're using both leaveners so that we'll actually get some pretty good loft on it. Oops, I just shook that on me. Okay, I'm going to do a teaspoon of baking powder. Then I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And you know, you need to test your soda and your powder every once in a while. There are some little tricks you can do. You could Google them about adding it to vinegar or water and seeing if there's any activity to be sure that they're still potent. So you don't want to forget, you know, you don't want to use old leaveners or you're not going to have a good loft in your mix. Okay, so here are our dry ingredients. When we come back, hopefully my bacon's going to be done. We'll have it scooped out. We'll finish our cornbread and start on our really good soup. Really easy and good. This is Cooking Today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. We are making beautiful, smoky black bean soup with sweet, cakey jalapeno cornbread. I've got lots of things going, so let me think on it. We've got our bacon out, it's crisped. We have our reserved bacon grease in the bottom of our pot. And I've turned that heat way down because I don't want that to get too dark on the bottom. And then I have started mixing our cornbread. And so I'm going to go ahead because our grease is nice and hot. And I'm going to mix in, while I was waiting for that bacon to cook, I went ahead and cut up a medium yellow onion. And then I have a half, isn't this so pretty? I have a half, you know the the sleeve that you can get of like the red pepper, yellow pepper, orange pepper, how pretty that is. If you can't get the sleeve, you can just get them individually. And I just did a half of each of those 3 colored peppers and I chopped it down, so we've got a really pretty pepper blend right here. So let's go ahead and put these in our bacon, and then the liquid out of those veggies is going to help to like loosen all that good stuff that's in the bottom of the pan that's left over. Really good. And I've got this down low. I want this to take its time and get lots of flavor and have plenty of time for that liquid to come out of these veggies and loosen those bits. We're kind of creating a good, slow flavor base for our soup. Okay, I'm just going to let those go for a minute. Now, back to our cornbread. I've got my dry mix, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in an egg, just 1 large, and then I have a cup and a quarter or so of buttermilk that I'm going to pour right in. You can't have cornbread without buttermilk, and if your recipe says milk, you can always substitute it with buttermilk. It's really good. Una Mae Nelson would have a fit if you used anything other than buttermilk. So I'm going to give that a little bit of a stir, and it's going to be kind of thick, and that's good. That's what we want. My veggies smell good. Okay. Got that poured in, and then I'm going to add in a couple of tablespoons. You know, I love these jarred jalapenos. So I'm going to do a couple of tablespoons, and they've got a little bit of the liquid in them, and that's okay. Maybe kind of 2 heaping. Well, let's do 1 more. Sam said when I made this for him, he said, I could have used a couple more good bites of those jalapenos. He loves that bite. Okay, so I've added those in, and now, remember, we put our skillet in the oven. We preheated it with a little bit of Crisco inside. Okay, let's get our way. It is going to be hot, 400 degrees hot to be exact. And so I'm going to be very careful with my skillet. And then see, we've already got it, it's all melted in. It's covered the bottom. And here we go, I'm pouring in. It's going to sizzle. That's so fun. I feel like my granny. When I'm holding cast iron skillets and pouring in Crisco, I feel like my granny. And then we're gonna stir that in and get that incorporated. Y'all, this is hot. You've got to be super careful when you're using it. But that Crisco makes it so good. It has a lot of flavor. Makes it kind of light and flaky. All right, and then all I'm gonna do is take my batter bowl. Whoop, I got my mitts on. I can't do that with my mitts on. And pour it in my hot, hot, hot skillet. And I don't think you can hear it. I'm gonna get my spoon. But it is sizzling already, and that's that little bitty crust, that little dark crust that is so good on the bottom. It's a little bit savory, it's a little bit bitter. I love that bite when everything else is kind of sweet. And that's all there is to it. Isn't that easy? So, I'm gonna take my mitts, get my oven back open carefully, and stick my sweet jalapeno cornbread back in the oven for about 18 to 20 minutes. You want to check it because you don't want it to get so dark. I'm going to set my timer while y'all are watching, because wouldn't it be a crying shame if we lost our cornbread to go with our soup? Oh, I would be so sad. All right, so let's check our vegetables. I'm going to get the heat turned up on them just a little bit. They've started to loosen all the dark. Oh, I love that, because all that dark on the bottom of that pan is flavor, flavor, flavor from your bacon, and it's happened. Nice and low, they sweated, we loosened up all the good bits. They've taken on that flavor. When we come back, we're gonna start adding in our cans and stirring it up. This is Cooking Today.
Iced tea, sponsored by Lipton.
Experience the local sounds, sights, and taste of the Fayetteville Farmers Market.
Do you know the producer behind your food?
What about how far away your food was grown?
Local to us means your food is harvested hours before traveling less than 60 miles to our market.
Enjoy music, chef demos, and special events while you shop for locally grown produce, meats, cheeses, flowers, artisan crafts, fine art, and more.
Visit us Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on the square.
The Fayetteville Farmers Market, 100% local and loved.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. We're making black bean soup that is so rich, a little bit smoky from this bacon that we used at the beginning. Got it kind of good. Sauteing our vegetables down right now in a little bit of reserved bacon grease. Delicious in that fat, y'all. It's just in there and it's so good. It's a really important step to making this bowl of soup especially good. Then we're sauteing a medium onion. And we have a couple of peppers, colored peppers that we've got in there. I used a tricolor so that they're especially pretty. And then I've let those kind of cook down a little bit. And then just kind of right here close to the end, I'm gonna stick in some celery. And that looks good to me. We're gonna go ahead and scoop that in and let this cook. It's a little bit more dainty. I cut it pretty, chopped it pretty fine. And so I'm not gonna let it go nearly as long because I do want it to have a little tiny bit of a crisp bite to it when we eat it. So I'm putting this in. Look at the color that these vegetables are getting. Amazing. And remember how I talked about the color of the bottom of our pot, how it was, a little concerning that there was all that dark? Well, all of that liquid in these vegetables loosens that up, and then the vegetables just kind of grab onto that flavor. There's nothing like it. Don't waste that. Don't trade pots. Just loosen up all the good bits. So what else we have going is our cornbread in our oven that was just yellow cornmeal and some flour, some sugar, our leaveners and some salt, and then a couple of good tablespoons of chopped jalapenos because we want that little tiny bite of a surprise, like a little hot in there to balance out our sweet. That's in our 400-degree oven. And it's got a little bit longer to go, roughly about, 7 or 8 minutes. And then this is how easy this is. Now, you're gonna do a little bit of chopping at the beginning, some elbow grease at the beginning. It's quite a bit of chopping, I'm not gonna lie to you. But after that, this is such good flavor. This is the base that creates magic for just these plain old canned beans. You know, there's not a lot of flavor in black beans. They're good, we eat with them quite a bit around here. But what's happening with this bacon and the seasonings and these veggies is the magic, okay? So then all we have to do after that is drain just a little bit of the liquid off. I don't rinse them. I do like a little bit of this sauce and that little gravy that's on them. I just kind of dumped that little bit that sits right on the top off, and then we've got our cans. So I've got 4 cans of our black beans. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have 1 can of Rotel or, you know, whatever, diced green or diced tomatoes with green chilies. And then I'm putting that in with the juice, because the juice in this is what has quite a bit of the spice and the seasoning, and that's what we want, is that little bit of heat. And then finally, I just have frozen corn. And I had about 2 cups in my freezer, and so that's what I'm gonna use. I prefer frozen corn over canned corn. I just think it tastes fresher. It has a little bit of a firmer texture to me. I just don't want it to be mushy, you know what I mean? And so I'm just gonna dump this in too. How easy is this? Look at how fresh it is, and the colors are fantastic. So we're gonna get under here and start scooping and pulling over our good base on the bottom. You know, all of our good veggies we sauteed. Look how pretty and bright that celery is, because we didn't cook it down too far. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Now, just to add a little bit more liquid to it, because, you know, the beans don't have a lot of liquid on them, and really the only liquid we've had at all that we've put in there is the liquid in our tomatoes. We're gonna pour in a cup of chicken stock. You could use vegetable stock if you want to do it that way. As a matter of fact, if you were to cut out the bacon grease step, which would grieve me just a little bit, but if you were to do it and you used a vegetable stock, this would be a vegetarian dish. Is this my first vegetarian dish? You really could do it. But I'm sad if you cut out the bacon. But do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do. But it's delicious. Okay, so we've added in our stock. As a matter of fact, I would love to hear from somebody if you ended up making this and you cut the bacon out and you went ahead and used a veggie stock. I would love to hear, like, if you thought it was really good. I don't want to hear if you didn't think it was good. I'm just teasing. Okay, so now, let's see. All we're gonna do to just give this a little bit of flavor, we don't want to put in like a chili powder because it would make it taste like chili. We don't really want to make it taco-y. We really want it to just kind of come into its own. I'm gonna add the tiniest bit of cumin and the tiniest bit of garlic, of granulated garlic. Let it simmer away. We want it to really cook down, get really good, develop flavor. And then our cornbread's gonna be ready. I can't wait for you to see it all come together. Come back, this is Cooking Today.
Candy, sponsored by Mars.
Hi, welcome back. We are wrapping up black bean soup with a most delicious bacon and yummy pepper and celery base. Great flavor. Y'all, from beginning to end, including mixing up your cornbread and letting this simmer for just a little bit, it's probably a meal that you could probably do in about 30 minutes. Maybe some of the chopping might add a little bit of more time, but it really, just the hands-on time is just not too much, and it is delicious. So we've got our beautiful jalapeno cornbread that's so sweet and cakey and has this wonderful texture. We've gotten that out of our oven. And I have our beautiful pot of soup that we have let simmer, simmer, simmer. And it has just developed this amazing flavor, and this base and the color is fantastic. And then I've got our bacon, of course, that started this whole party. Let's spoon some of this out. Oh my goodness, you can see all of the colors of the peppers. That green celery. Oh my goodness, it's so pretty. The red from our little tomatoes. Remember, we put our Rotel in there and our peppers. Beautiful. And then what I love to do, oh, let's do our greens. Chop a few green onions for our top. Then we've got our sour cream. Of course, you cannot have this without sour cream. Our cheese, our bacon, and our pretty little scallions that we're gonna put right on top. Y'all, it's so good. Get a good wide rim bowl so we can put a piece of cornbread right there on the side. Sop it up, eat it as you go. It is delicious. I hope that you will try this recipe at home. You're gonna thank me for it. This is Cooking Today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company. Kitchenware is provided by Una Mays. Groceries provided by HARPS, Hometown Fresh. Online Elements sponsored by Fayetteville Farmers Market.